Welcome to the Advanced Freelancing Podcast. Every week, you'll hear strategies for building your online service-based business your way. And now, here's your host, veteran freelancer, author, and TEDx speaker, Laura Briggs.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Advanced Freelancing Podcast. We're talking about one of my favorite subjects today, and that is marketing. We are going to dive into content marketing with Amy Woods, and we're also going to talk about something you should be doing with every piece of marketing collateral that you're creating to promote your business, and that is repurposing content. I am notoriously bad at repurposing content, so I'm excited to be here for my own sake, but I think you're going to get a lot out of hearing what Amy has to say. Amy, I'd love to hear, how did you get into the world of content marketing?
It's a fairly long story actually, but I'll try and keep it really brief. So my background actually isn't in content marketing from a kind of longer term career perspective. So I was a management consultant for 13 years. So obviously very different, working with Fortune 500 companies mainly in mergers and acquisitions. So big corporate type career. And then I'd always wanted to start my own business actually, and I was really keen on a business that didn't require me to constantly travel all the time when I had a family. So I initially deviated and started took my business consultancy type experience and turned that into an online business where I was serving smaller businesses, and I created things like courses, and I was doing consultations online and things like that. And because it was new for me and I was growing a personal brand, I started to embrace content marketing myself, and I was learning about, podcasting, videos, live streams, things like that. And I guess I just had this light bulb moment because I was repurposing my content to try and really, really get the most out of it when I was doing that. So I think my background in consultancy, very, very kind of process type mindset. And so I was desperate to work out, okay, you create a really good, long form piece of content. Surely you can then use that to fuel all your other content. So that can be tweets, that can be a Facebook post, an Instagram post. If the video can become a blog, that can become an email. How do we systemize this and make the most out of the content? So I started to do that myself, and I had a team of people working with me, my copywriter, graphic designer, video, that kind of thing. And that's when I came up with the idea of my business, where we do that for people. So we work with people who create an original piece of content like a podcast or a video, and then then we spin it and turn it into lots of other content. So it kind of just happened because I was growing a personal brand and doing it myself, realized I was juggling a lot of freelancers and a lot of different people to deliver the service. And if you had one person who could just deliver the service for you, it would save a lot more time. So it just all happened over a few years, and then I've now been running Content 10X for nearly 3 years now. So content repurposing has then basically just been my world for the past 3 years or so. And I'll speak about it. I've written a book about it. We've grown our services and our clients, and it's just everything that I do now, basically.
Yeah, this is so interesting from two perspectives, because one, I haven't met another person who is offering this type of service before. So for freelancers out there who are like, I need to pivot, I need to adapt, like this is something new you could potentially explore, especially if you are someone who is already creating content for your clients. Trying to help them get the most mileage out of every single thing that you create for them is important. Would you say that you see most people focusing on like one core type of content marketing, and then they come to you for repurposing that into different formats? Or are they doing like a blog and a podcast together as part of their content marketing? I'm just curious about some of the trends of what most people are doing when they come to you.
Well, I mean, yeah, quite often when they come to us, I suppose really that is the mistake that they're making, that they're not focusing on one core piece of content and spreading themselves a little bit too thin. So my recommendation for content marketing is always to really kind of just focus on one long form content. And by long form, I just mean, not social media posts and things like that or images, but what's the meaty content that you create on a regular basis? Is it a blog post? Is it a podcast episode like this? Is it a video? Do you go on a live stream? Do you have a weekly live stream show? So when people come to us, often the problem is they're trying to do quite a few of those. So they're getting, not enough time, and maybe it's not the best quality because they're spreading themselves too thin. And then they're not being very consistent as well. So it's an occasional blog post and, maybe a podcast that's supposed to be weekly, but isn't always, or that kind of thing. So I guess the immediate problem that we solve and then we run with is we always work with, one form of regular long form content, and it has to be consistent. So it doesn't matter what that consistency is in terms of some people might be 3 times a week, twice a week, weekly, as long as it's consistent so that you grow your audience in that consistent way. And then if you put all of your time and effort into one great form of content, be it a podcast, video, blog post, then all the other content can come off that. So you'll still have a video turned into a blog post, turned into a podcast episode, turned into lots of social media content, but it's all coming from that one source, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does make sense. And I think that could be a sigh of relief for the freelancers out there who are feeling the pressure to do all the things. And I know I'm just as guilty of that as everyone else. And so I think that if you have one really great core piece of content and you focus on that, it pulls a lot of things off of your calendar. But it sounds like outsourcing it to someone else could be really helpful for making sure that you're getting the most traction out of it. For someone who's thinking about outsourcing, like say that core piece of content and maybe turning it into different things, what is a reasonable range or expectation to pay for something like that? Because I'm sure there are people who are interested in that, but wondering, well, shouldn't I just do it myself? Even if it takes me 5 hours a week, does it really make sense to pass that off? Do you have any idea of like a starting point of what you could recommend someone include in their budget for something like that?
Well, I mean, I guess it really depends on what you want to achieve and what you want to do. So for us at Content 10X, we don't have a specific kind of set service because every client is on a really kind of customized, bespoke service that suits them. And we have some clients where the repurpose is huge. It's taking a video and then turning it into lots and lots of other videos, podcast production process, extracting audio and turning it into a podcast. It'll involve lots of images, infographics, an email to their email subscribers, all sorts of content, and publishing too. So publishing everything to their website, to YouTube, to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Medium, everything, everywhere. Something like that is huge. And that is if it's a weekly basis, if it's, let's say, a 15-minute video every week that gets turned into all of that content, I don't know, you're probably talking about anything from kind of 15 to 20 hours of the outsource company delivering that. So you may be looking at, I don't know, like maybe $3,000-$4,000 a month, something like that. But then if you're looking for starting really simple, like, please could you just repurpose my video into a blog post and some graphics to share on social media? I don't need you to publish it. I just would like the blog post and the graphics and I'll publish it myself. That could be the complete opposite end of $100 a week, $400 or $500 a month. So I think this, it's like, it really is just, to what extent do you want to outsource it? But I think you made a really good point when you said it's kind of comparing it to your own time, isn't it? And if you're a freelancer, of course, you know exactly what the value is of your time. You know what an hour is worth of your own time. So if you're going to embark on doing some of this yourself and you're realizing that you're spending 5 or 6 hours a week on it, I guess you right, okay, what's that to me if I was charging that hour and doing this, freeing those hours up to actually earn money in my business? And you work that out and then you realize, okay, well, I can outsource this for far less than what I could bring in, then it's worthwhile, isn't it? So it really, I think it is a worthwhile outsourcing something like this from the point of view of the skill sets required. I think a lot of people maybe don't realize that, a graphic designer is then not going to be a copywriter. Copywriter isn't necessarily going to be the blog copywriter as well as the social media copywriter, because it's two different kind of copywriting skill sets. The extracting audio from a video and turning it into a podcast isn't necessarily the video editor. That's a podcast producer, and that's their skill set, things like that. So if you're going to do it all, you have to, I guess, assess, do I have the skills to do this? Am I spending 2 hours doing something that somebody could do for me for 10 minutes? Because I don't really know what I'm doing here, and somebody else could do this in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? I think it's just acknowledging what the skill sets are, what the value is of your time, whether somebody else should do it, and whether they'd probably do it in a 10th of the time that you do it as well. So it's not comparing an hour to an hour as well, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And it's a great point to remember for freelancers as they're talking to companies too, where you might provide a company with a quote and they go, oh, well, that seems really expensive. Maybe we should just try to do this in-house. And then you're asking them to think about, okay, well, you might have to involve 3 or 4 employees at a minimum who all have these different skill sets. And it might take them, 3 or 4 days to do this. And so it's kind of about how you position yourself with the time that you're saving other people. I noticed. Yeah, you've had some really amazing clients and you do a great job of using social proof on your website. I say I've worked with Chris Ducker and Natalie Ekdahl. And so I'm curious, what has worked really well for your company in terms of marketing these services? Because it's not like, I wouldn't say this is a really well-known type of service yet, but it makes complete sense why there's so many people using it. Are you curious about how to get started working as a search engine optimization writer? Always loved writing, but don't understand the technical elements? No worries, you can easily teach yourself. And this podcast episode is sponsored by the Advanced SEO Writing for Freelancers and Bloggers course. You can learn more all about how to choose keywords, how to pick topics for your clients, how to complete a content strategy audit, and how to write a fully optimized SEO piece of content writing that you can sell for $50 and up. Check out tinyurl.com/advanced SEO writer to learn more about this course and to enroll. So what have you found as far as being effective for your own company in getting the word out there about this kind of unique approach to content marketing?
Well, I guess like yourself, I have a podcast. So from a content marketing perspective, I try and work really hard to make sure that we practice what we preach in that regard. So I have a weekly podcast, and then we repurpose the podcast. I guess as you would expect, we do what we do for our clients for us. So we have the podcast is also a weekly blog and lots of social content. So we do content marketing, and then. Other things that I personally have done is, I think I mentioned earlier, but I'll speak as well. So I speak at events and I come on to things like podcasts like right now, and also guest on live streams, and, just try and get the word out there through other people and other conversations, my own content marketing, my podcast, my blog, and my social media content. And then the growth of the business, to be honest, though, has been largely a lot of referrals as well. So I just genuinely believe that if you do a really good job and you make sure that other people know that you've done a really good job, and it's so good that the people that you do that work for will tell other people, then good things happen. And I guess that's it's not the most robust marketing strategy to build a business on referrals, but it's been a combination of content marketing in a very, very consistent way, and just doing a good job in the referrals that have come from that, really.
I like that. And I mean, the word consistency is one that comes up a lot for me with regard to marketing, because a lot of freelancers really struggle with that, and they don't, they're not super consistent with it. Maybe they have a week where they're really, ahead of the game and they send a lot of pitches, and maybe they publish a blog post or do some other things, but then they kind of overwhelm themselves during that week and aren't really able to keep up with it. It is so much better to pick 1 or 2 things that you can do consistently, even if it's at a small amount, because doing 5 or 6 consistent pitches a week and producing 1 piece of content that you can repurpose is so much more effective than trying to say, well, I guess, the first week of every month I'll send 35 pitches, and then you burn yourself out and you don't have that pipeline of stuff going on. I know that one thing that's helped me with repurposing and aligning content. I was really bad at this for the longest time. And my new executive assistant has been helping me do this. When we publish content every week, if we publish, like, say we're going to publish this podcast this week, we're going to try and line up everything that we share that week in relationship to content marketing and repurposing content. And so I don't have to create new stuff. We go and see, like, do we have an old blog post? Do we have an old infographic? Can I do a quick 10-minute live video that's like a teaser that really makes sense in relation to this episode? So you don't have to feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. And if it's not the right fit for you to outsource this repurposing part just yet, you can be able to do that a little bit yourself. We just use a spreadsheet that's like, here's the topic of the week. This is what the podcast guest talked about. And then I, look for, have I created something like that before? Could I create something that goes along the general theme? And then your audience kind of feels like you're talking about that kind of consistently. They're hearing it over and over. And with regard to referrals, like, as long as that's not your only method of marketing, right? It's actually really solid, because I think social proof is so much more powerful. One paragraph someone else says about you is worth 15 that you say about yourself. And so when you have clients that are actively referring you to other people, the great thing about it is if your current clients are ideal clients, they tend to refer you to other ideal clients.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
They all have the same qualities that you like, and it makes it that much easier. So a tip for the freelancers out there, be asking your current clients who like working with you, not just for testimonials, but for referrals too. Let them know, hey, I do accept referrals. I love working with other great people like you. If you have a colleague in your network, sometimes your clients are under the impression that you're fully booked, or that you aren't interested in taking on other clients. So just kind of let that be out there. Even if they can't refer you, if you ask for a referral and a testimonial, there's a good chance that they'll give you at least a testimonial. And you can check out Amy's website. She's done a really good job of explaining, like, having other people explain what she does and why she does it well, and using their pictures and everything, which is great for that name recognition as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So if you had to give sort of a marketing tip for a freelancer who has not done any content marketing to start with, maybe they've just been referral based, or they had one big client that they took from their day job and stayed with that one client, what would be the first thing you would recommend starting with in terms of content marketing? Should it be should it be a podcast or a blog, or should it be something different? I'm just sort of curious, where's a good starting point so someone doesn't get overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think you should choose one, as we were saying, just choose one. So don't try and do everything. Choose one thing that you're going to do. And then I think you need to blend two decision-making aspects. So the first one is, what do you feel comfortable doing? So if you maybe just look at it as four options. I think 4 key long form type options, which are, would you feel comfortable blogging and doing a weekly blog post? Would you have time? Do you like to write? Do you enjoy writing? Would you be more comfortable podcasting? And have you got an idea of what you could talk about? Would you have guests? But does a podcast appeal to you? Video, I always say that if video does appeal to you, and you feel that you could be comfortable on camera, then that is always the best starting point. So consider video, because it's the best starting point, because videos can become blog posts and podcasts and everything else. Or live stream, that's another one. That's kind of like, I think a great idea in terms of thinking, could I have a weekly live show where it's not just video content, but I can interact with people and provide more of an experience as well. So you have to know yourself and know what you feel comfortable with. Because even though I said video is great, if you know deep down that you really don't feel that comfortable on video and that you wouldn't really enjoy it, then it might not be for you. Or podcast or writing, you think you're going to become a blogging, but deep down you actually hate writing, then choose the one that you think you would be comfortable with and that you would actually enjoy and that you could become consistent with. But make sure that you blend that decision with your audience. Who are they, and where do they hang out, and what do they like to consume? So if you love video content and you think that video could be for you, but you really look at your audience, you speak to maybe some existing clients, you do a little bit of a survey, just chats with people, and you find out none of them like video content or really watch it, then that's not going to be for you. So you have to, blend what do your audience like with what do you feel comfortable doing, that you could be so comfortable that you'd enjoy it and do it consistently. And then really just commit. I think then you've made the decision, that's it. I'm going to do a weekly video, or I'm going to do a weekly blog post. And then, I know you said one thing, but just one other thing, which is that I think you're doing it for your business and you want to attract people to you because you're positioning yourself as a person who can solve a problem for the people that you want to grow your audience from, and then ultimately go on and become clients. So if you're doing that, draw up a content plan just to get yourself going, to get that consistency going. So work out, let's say you've committed to a weekly video. It's going to be a 10-minute video every week that you're going to put on YouTube and your website and repurpose it. What are they going to be about? So just think up the problems that you solve, break them down as well. Don't think of something big and then break that down into even 10 more individual type questions that people would ask you about that. And then create content that helps directly solve the problems that your clients have, proves and positions you as the problem solver, and makes it really clear that you want to be known as the person who can solve that problem, so that when people do start to consume your content and see you in different places, there's this real consistent theme that they know exactly who you are and what problem you solve, so that one day when they have that problem, you are the first person that they are going to think of to go to. So don't be all scattergun. Don't start talking about things that aren't relevant to what you want people to know you for. Stay on track of what you want to be known for. Even if you are desperate to talk about other things, just stay on track so that they know who you are and what you do, if it's content marketing for your business in particular.
That's excellent advice. Often people go down the wrong road because they see, oh, well, everyone is talking about live videos, so I guess I should do that. And the truth is, if you don't like showing up on live video, or you don't have an audience that likes it, or a big enough audience to watch those videos, don't feel pressured to do that, because what's going to happen is in your head, you're going to go, I don't really want to do that. Let me just put it off. Maybe I'll start next week, and you won't be really consistent with it. So start off by testing maybe one or two things and see which one gels with you more. Maybe you try things that are completely different, like doing a video and then maybe doing, a blog, and see which one gets more resonance. And then you can decide which one to stick with and repurpose the content into the other one if you needed to. But pick something that you like and that your audience likes. Don't feel pressured like, oh, everyone says I should start a podcast. It is a ton of work to run a podcast. Okay. So don't dive into that if you're not really serious about sticking with it, or you feel a resistance to it from the very beginning. Being consistent and sticking with something that you like and your audience likes, even if it's only one thing, stay in your lane. Don't get derailed. Don't feel like you have to have 5 marketing methods going at once and where they're all, scattered in terms of the results that you're getting. I think it's very important. Like, the key here that I'm pulling from this conversation is that you need to be doing at least one thing very consistently. It forms the basis of everything else that you can do. And when you have that system down, then you can start to think about how you can repurpose that and get the most mileage out of every single thing that you create.
Absolutely, yeah. And the consistency is important, but don't know your own time, don't overcommit. It's absolutely fine if it's going to be something that you put out every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. You don't have to conform to, weekly or multiple times a week, because it's about quality over quantity. Because from wonderful, high quality content, you can create lots of micro content anyway. So the more time you put into it to make it great to a schedule that suits you, the more that you'll get out of it as well. So remember, it's a quality play.
Absolutely. And that's the perfect place for us to wrap up, now that you have plenty of action tips that you can implement in your own content marketing schedule. Amy, where can people go to learn more about you and the services that you offer?
Yeah, sure. So the best place to go would just be our website, actually, Content 10x, so content10x.com. You can find out more about what we do, but also all my social media handles are there. So come say hi, follow me on social media, and I'm at Content 10x on all the social media platforms as well. But yeah, that's the best place. And if you want to check out my book, that's in the usual places: Amazon, Audible, all the Kindle store, that kind of places as well. And it's content 10x. So if you look for content 10x, you'll surely find me wherever you are looking.
Oh, I'm so excited to dig into your book. I'm going to go ahead and grab a copy of that for myself right now. Well, thank you
brilliant.
so much for being willing to come on the show. I know I personally have gotten a lot out of this episode, but I think it's going to be helpful for so many freelancers out there. So thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you so much for having me on. And if anyone does have any questions, do just hit me up on social media. But no, thanks so much for having me on.